This is Pastify Hub, and today we are re-traveling through time to uncover one of the most important questions in America, its story. Are ordinary Americans truly better off today than they were decades ago? Because if you look at the charts, the US economy has exploded since the 1950s. It's bigger, richer, and more productive than ever before. But here's the real question: who actually got richer? Did the average worker's life improve the way the numbers suggest? Or did most of that growth go somewhere else? To find out, we are going to step inside the shoes of a typical middle-class American and live through 7 decades of change. From the booming factories of the 1950s to the turbulent 70s, the corporate rise of the 90s, and the digital age of today. Let's see how much life has really improved for the average American. 1950s, the golden age of opportunity. It's 1955. The war is over, the soldiers are home, and the factories that once built tanks are now building cars, washing machines, and televisions. The United States stands tall as the richest nation on earth. Our middle-class American works in a car factory, earning about $4,400 a year, which is roughly $41,000 in today's money. That income alone can comfortably support a spouse and 2 children. His wife doesn't have to work. In fact, most women don't. Only about 1/3 of them are in the workforce. He owns a modest but beautiful suburban home that cost him around $84,000 in today's dollars, about twice his yearly income. That's affordable by any standard. And with the government backing low-interest loans for veterans, home ownership is becoming the American norm. Taxes on the rich are sky high, but those taxes are building highways, schools, and neighborhoods. Public investment is pouring back into ordinary lives. And here's what's fascinating. When the economy grows, everyone's income grows together. The rich, the poor, and the middle class all see similar increases. The prosperity is shared. For a white, male American in the 1950s, the dream is alive. Work hard, buy a home, raise a family, and watch your children climb even higher. Almost everyone born in this era earns more than their parents did. That's what economists call upward mobility. And in the 1950s, it's nearly universal. But this story has a shadow. Millions of Black Americans, who also fought in the war, were excluded from the housing boom. Redlining maps and discriminatory lending locked them out of the new suburbs. So while the dream was real for many, it wasn't for all. Still, for the median earner, life in the 1950s was stable, affordable, and full of opportunity. 1970s, the age of change. Now we jump ahead 20 years. It's the 1970s. The cars are faster, the music's louder, and America is changing. Socially, politically, and economically. Our middle-class family is still doing well. The household now earns around $66,000 a year in modern dollars. But something new has happened. His wife is also working. By the end of the decade, nearly half of all women are in the labor force. It's partly about independence, but it's also about necessity. Because for the first time, one income doesn't go as far as it used to. Inflation is rising, oil prices are spiking, and the cost of living is beginning to climb faster than wages. Their new home costs about $230,000, which is already more than 3 times the family's yearly income. Affordable, but no longer easy. Still, the big picture looks positive. Economic growth is strong, and all income groups, from the lowest to the highest, continue to grow at almost the same pace. The system still feels fair. If you were born in the 1950s and reached adulthood in the 1970s, you had about an 80% chance of earning more than your parents. That's still an American dream most people could believe in. But cracks are forming. Factories are starting to automate. Unions are weakening. And oil shocks, inflation, and global competition are slowly reshaping the American economy. The 1970s marked the end of an era, the last decade when prosperity was broadly shared. 1990s, the Great Divergence. Welcome to the 1990s. The Cold War is over, the internet is being born, and America is entering a new kind of economy, digital, fast, and corporate. Our middle-class worker earns around $76,000 a year, just a bit more than in the 70s. The problem? Prices have kept rising, but wages have not. Their home now costs $273,000, nearly 4 times the household income. Something else is changing too. For the first time, the link between productivity and pay starts to break. Workers are making more, producing more, innovating more, but their paychecks are stuck. Meanwhile, the wealthiest Americans are pulling ahead at record speed. In the 1970s, the average CEO earned about 25 times more than a typical worker. By the end of the 1990s, that number is nearly 400 times more. The gap between rich and poor isn't just widening, it's exploding. For middle-class Americans, this is where the dream begins to fade. If you were born in the 1970s, you now have only about a 60% chance of earning more than your parents. That's still better than a coin toss, but far from the near guarantee it once was. Economic growth continues, but it no longer feels like everyone's invited. The rich are building fortunes from investments, while ordinary families work harder just to stay in place. The system is shifting from shared prosperity to concentrated wealth. 2010s, stagnation and struggle. Fast forward to the 2010s. The world has changed. The factories are gone, replaced by offices, screens, and global supply chains. The middle-class worker now manages spreadsheets instead of machines, earning around $81,000 a year. On paper, it doesn't look bad. But look closer. That's the same income as in the late 1990s. 2 full decades of economic growth, and yet the median household earns almost the same as before. Meanwhile, the cost of everything, housing, education, healthcare, has surged. Owning a home is harder than ever. Student debt is rising, and economic security feels like a distant memory. The 2008 financial crisis hit hard. Millions lost homes, jobs, and savings. And while the recovery brought Wall Street back to record highs, most families never fully bounced back. CEOs are still earning hundreds of times more than their workers. Corporations are bigger and more powerful. And the wealthiest 1% own more wealth than the entire bottom half of the country combined. If you were born in the 1980s, your odds of earning more than your parents are now less than 50%. For the first time in modern history, most Americans are not guaranteed a better life than the generation before them. The dream that once united the nation, that hard work leads to success, now feels uncertain. Today, 2025 and beyond. And now, we're here, 2025. The pandemic shook the world and exposed deep cracks in the system. But it also shifted priorities. Remote work, technology, and new industries are transforming how people live and earn. For the first time in years, median wages have begun to rise slightly, but inequality remains at record highs. The top 10% of earners still collect nearly half of all income in the country. The question remains, with all this wealth, all this innovation, all this progress, are we truly better off? In many ways, yes. We have better technology, longer lives, greater access to information, and more inclusion than ever before. Women, minorities, and marginalized groups have more opportunity today than they did in the 1950s. But when it comes to financial security, stability, and mobility, the story is mixed. The American economy has grown immensely, but that growth hasn't been shared evenly. The average worker is more productive than ever, yet struggles to afford a home, raise a family, or save for the future. If the 1950s were defined by shared prosperity, today's America is defined by concentrated wealth. And the question we must all ask is, who gets to decide how the next chapter is written? Because the truth is, the economy isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to. And that design, the rules, the policies, the priorities, can still be changed. The American dream doesn't have to fade, it can evolve. But only if ordinary people demand a system that works for them, not just for the top. History shows that prosperity can be shared. It happened before, and it can happen again. Because if there is one thing America has always been good at, it's reinventing itself. So maybe the real question isn't whether we're better off than before. Maybe it's whether we still believe that a better future is possible, and whether we willing to fight for it. This is Pastify Hub. Thank you for watching. And if you believe in learning from history to shape a fairer future, don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from the past that define our world today.